Versatile School of Photography, transforming lives through photography.
If I was to describe myself by what I do in a short sentence, I would call myself a creative and performing artist, as well as a trainer and a coach. More specifically, a trainer in personal growth and development. And more specific to that, I focus in the areas of effective communication. I go by the stage name Regina-Re, and that's how I'm popularly known, because as a performing artist, that was the name and brand that I put out there. And so even when I started training, I decided to keep the name Regina-Re. It's Regina-Re, Queen, King. That's the meaning of the name. I've recently, in the past 3 years, created my own training program, having taught for many years and coached for many years in the areas of etiquette and personal branding and public speaking and acting and modeling, and that's the background that I come from. I recently created my own effective communication program called Pep Talk, and Pep Talk is actually an acronym for the areas in which I focus on in effective communication. And those areas are public speaking, presentation and performing arts, etiquette enhancement, personality profiling, and personal branding. So that's Pep Talk. And the brand promise of Pep Talk, those coming to take this program and are high achievers, people from all walks of life, whether you're a photographer, an artist, an entrepreneur, a business person, an executive, the people who come to take this program, the brand promise of Pep Talk is that it will help or assist the participant communicate with confidence, with skill, and with impact. And how did I put this program together? I encapsulated my experience and training in the areas of mass communications, which is what I studied as a major in school. I put together my experience of a performing artist, having been in the arena of stage, film, photography, a vocalist, all those areas. So I put that together, and I also bring my background in counseling psychology, having studied at length as far as trainer in counseling psychology, diploma in psychology. And so I put all those areas or disciplines together to create this personal growth and development program. How did I get interested in photography? Being a mass communications major back in college in the late 80s, early 90s, yes, before all this digital stuff came to be, as part of the coursework, alongside acting for the stage, singing, journalism, public relations, there was also a study in photography. And so it was during that time, as I was learning in college about light and dark rooms and things like that, I developed a keen interest, as I have in any area of that creative space. And it's very interesting, back in the day when we were studying photography, we were just really taught the basics. Even as photography students today, you go back to the basics, but the basics then are not quite as the basics that we experienced, which was the practical part of experiencing a dark room, for example. If you said to many new students of photography, what is a dark room? They would be hard pressed to say. And that was how we used to develop film back in the day. And so we really learned the fundamentals of dipping this specialized paper through some chemical so that this photograph could be processed and stuff like that. And then you hang them up, and then you have to wait. They have to wait there in the darkroom for a bit, a couple of days and hours, so that they could be processed, etc., etc., etc. So that was where my introduction into photography came. Film was a different matter. I was more, as a performing artist, I was in front of the camera, as I am right now. And so majority of my my adult life has been as an actress in front of the camera, whether I'm on a theatrical stage or whether I'm in a commercial or whether I'm in a TV series or TV show or a feature film or even a documentary, docudrama. So my interest developed from being around cameras, lights, the production teams for a majority of my life. So the interest then to take film, because I'm looking at photography and film in the same vein, to take it as a course in the more recent past, the recent past being even up to this year, and as recent as last year, I took a course with Versatile in film and a course in photography. My interest has never waned, even though I've not done photography or film professionally as a profession. I decided that I needed to go back to school to learn what is happening now in this day and age, where I see every third person has a camera, a professional camera. And now in the advent of we're in the digital space, and your phone now can be your camera, and it can be just as professionally, you can take just as professional pictures with your phone now, because they're so high tech, as you can with what we were calling the mainstream professional cameras. And so the interest for me to go back to school and really focus a little bit more than I have been in photography and film came as a result of the work that I do as a personal growth and development coach and trainer, and realizing that as a performing artist, it's important for us to put ourselves out there on social media platforms, get our pictures taken, do blogs, do video logs, etc., etc. And so we're breaking down the idea of the third party or the third person, going to someone to process my pictures or to do this and that and the other, when there's so much now that we're able to do on our own. So having a little bit of more technical knowledge in that space is what I was interested in when I went back to do photography and film. And it really, the interest in photography has never really died, because even when we had our little 35 millimeter, well, not 35 millimeter cameras, those cameras that we buy, you get as a gift or something like that, even before our phones came about, I was always, and I still am, always taking pictures. My friends know me as Queen Paparazzi. I can't go to a function, an event, a wedding, a party. Recently I was at a music festival for my daughter and her school. I can't go to any of those events and not take a picture and not capture film. So I capture snippets. Wherever I am, my phone is in my hand, my camera's in my hand, and I'm beating a photo. And then I feel that I need to post it to those who are in the photo, who are interested in it. But also, it's just fun. I just find it a release. One might ask, well, why are you doing it? Why are you not doing it professionally? It's a release. It's cathartic for me to take pictures, to capture moments by way of video and film, and just review them or send them around. Last night I was at a church service, and the worship team was singing so beautifully, and so I just felt I would be remiss not to just capture a few moments of the worship team singing. And then when I took some of the video, small snippets, 30 seconds, 1 minute, I sent to some of the members of the choir, and then I sent to others who are not at the church, a few other people that I know, saying, oh, this is where I am now. So it's good fun, and I find it very cathartic to involve myself in this art form called photography and film. For now, being so diverse in my areas of interest, sometimes I get a little bit confused. Where do I focus on? And I've tried to streamline on my training, for one, and I'm delving into harnessing my vocal, my area of singing and performing in that space. So as far as photography goes, I'm clear that I have not done as much as a professional photographer as I know some of my classmates have. They've gone into it and they're doing gigs here and there, and we have a group chat, and I, always see updates of what people are doing, and I'm enthralled by that, and it's wonderful. I don't think that that's the space that I need to or want to be in right now. The space that I'm in right now as far as photography, which is very interesting to me still, as I mentioned, is just having my gadget and being able to capture moments at a moment's notice. And having said that, then it's important for me to just be able to have the tool to do it with at a moment's notice that is easy to carry anywhere. And so what tool is that? My slick, easy phone. I started off with one of the older Samsungs, the Samsung Note 3, and then I also use a Techno Camera camera that captures pretty good pictures for the time being. So the type of photo gadget I use for my photographs is still my phone, mainly, unless in good time I will purchase something a little bit more professional, as we say, but the need has to inform that. If the next gadget that I plan to get is not going to be a professional camera. As I looked around to see what gadgets, and the gadgets are always being upgraded, the type of cameras and this and that, and when I think to myself, if I was going to invest in something, in my view, you want to invest in a gadget or whatever it is that is commensurate to your lifestyle or what it is that you're doing. And my lifestyle is up and go. So I need to put a gadget in my bag I need to have a gadget that can just fit in my bag, that I don't have to be carrying extra equipment. Nobody need know that I have that gadget unless I pull it out. And so I came across, I'm still inclined to upgrade my phone, still use my phone, but use, there's this gadget called, a DJI Osmo 5XR. And it's something that you can attach your phone to, and it stabilizes your pictures so that you can it actually takes movie. You can actually film a movie with your camera and this gadget. And so wherever you're moving, the way I see myself moving around and taking selfies and whatever, you can go in the round, you can follow like the movement of even a puppy and whatever it is with this gadget and your phone attached to it, and it will capture pictures and movie as though you actually have one of those funky professional cameras. So if I was to invest, that would be the gadget that I'd invest in, because my lifestyle is that I take lifestyle shots of birthday parties, of singing, of musicals, of people just doing random things. I prefer, if I'm taking pictures of people, unless we're doing a selfie and everybody knows we're in the selfie, I'm a selfie queen, by the way, I prefer more candid shots. I like to see somebody doing something and they're not aware that the camera is there, and then I just take a shot of that. So my eye is always just looking at what's interesting, what's going on around me. I like to take in the moment, real time, and more often than not, candid shots of pictures. But the photographs that I take and the gadget that I use have to fit my lifestyle, because I don't want it to be cumbersome for me to carry a professional camera around if it's going to be too bulky. So this gadget is one that I really want to get. That's DJI Osmo, yeah. The photography and the social media space has been a huge impact on the work that I do as an artist, but more importantly in this space of being a trainer and a coach. One may not believe this, but as social as I am, I tend to be quite private. And so I hesitated initially when this whole social media stuff started coming out, like Facebook and Instagram and all those things. But when I realized that social media can play a huge role in actually growing one's status in their area of expertise or area of interest, then I decided to embrace social media, and as a result also embrace photographs and photography and film a little more than I have. So there's so much work that I have done pre-social media that people have not even seen, they don't even know exists, movies and commercials and things like that. But now post-social media, I decided, okay, now I need to be more proactive about using this leveraging photographs and my knowledge of photography, the little bit I know about it, and film, to elevate my status as an artist, as a coach, and put myself out there so that even if I'm not making money directly as a photographer, my photographs, my pictures, my film, my short clips should be able to, in good time, generate an income for me by way of those pictures and those films. So how has it impacted me? Quite heavily. Since taking pictures and being more proactive in that space, I've been able to design flyers, my own flyers for the programs that I do. I'm in the flyers as an artist. I've been able to learn a little bit about the graphics of, layout and design and putting out an effective flyer, like my pep talk flyers are out there. I've been able to use the Instagram space to post some of these photographs, that many of which have been taken by Versatile, and they're very professional. And I even get asked, okay, where did you get these photographs done? Who did this? And stuff like that. So I'm also able to, refer. And I'm big on, supporting local talent. So if somebody has a talent in whatever space they're in, and I'm involved in that, I would be the first person to say, oh, there's a photographer here, or there's this here, or whatever it is. And so I've been able to do periodic postings of some of these photographs, even on my Facebook page. My Pep Talk page is there, Regina-Re page is there, using still some of my knowledge about what we learned. When we talk about photography class and film class, it's very easy to make it looks very small, but what people who don't take the program realize is that there are so many subtopics in that photography class, like something called Photoshop. We hear this word Photoshop being floated around, but what is it really? We learn the technique of Photoshop. Graphics, how do you put your graphics onto the photographs so that they make sense? How do you market yourself as a photographer or an artist or an entrepreneur? And so there are so many courses within that umbrella of film class or photography class, and those have impacted me as well. I consider myself a professional student. Somebody asked me this morning, they were calling for my course, and they asked me, what does that mean? I said, well, I'm always in a class somewhere. I'm always taking something. I'm always trying to learn something new. And so as a trainer and a coach, I believe you can't give what you don't have. So it's important to keep on refreshing one's brain cells and one's whole self by taking courses. So it has been an interesting journey in the past year and a half, being more proactive by way of pictures and photographs and film. And in the same vein, then I get to meet a whole slew of new people, interested people in the industry, and it just broadens my network, and it's super. So I have gained directly and indirectly by virtue of being in the space of photography and film. The little that I do know about photography, and I talk about it from my experience, again, mainly from being in front of the camera. I remember when I left high school, I've been a model for years and years, so I remember back in the day when we were modeling, we used to be captured, when we go for some of these events at hotels and stuff like that. And I have memories of the pictures that were in the newspapers were black and white. And in my view, that is one huge leap that we have taken. Now, there are many people in this generation that can't imagine a black and white newspaper. But that's how newspapers used to be. There was no color. And yes, we were taking pictures, but not as much as we are doing by leaps and bounds as we're doing now. There were very specific studio houses. In fact, when we were growing up, I believe there was only one studio that everybody would go to in Nairobi to take their pictures. And anybody that, I'm sure any one of our parents or grandparents who lived in Nairobi and never got a picture done, took pictures at this specific photo studio in town. And so we did not have the diversity and the choice. It was what it was, and you go there, and even in the way people posed in those photographs, they were all very just stiff and, you know, like they were going for a dirge or a funeral or something like that, and there's your picture. And so you see these hanging in people's homes. But most of the time they were black and white. The pictures and photographs of our parents were black and white until the idea of doing watercolor photography came. You talk about evolution, and when I say to you that I was always interested in pictures, I just didn't do it professionally. I as an artist or a creative, you know, I just delved in it because it was good fun. And I remember one time when I left college, and again as a student, a professional student, I wanted to take a class, and I took a class back when I was still in the States, but no, I was done with college. I was taking a separate class. I'm remembering now, I took a class in hand-painted photography. Have you ever heard of that? Yeah. And again, we were not in this space of digital and anything like that, but we had, you know, most photographs that were taken back in the day were black and white. So many people had black and white pictures. So along came this class. I don't know who thought of it, who decided to create it. And there was a class where we learned the technique of taking black and white photographs and painting them. It was literally a class that I took. And I found that fascinating, because now what we do on your computer graphically is you can lift color from a black and white. You can lift color or have a black and white picture and dab color where you want to, change color where you want to. But we're doing that digitally. But back in the day, I actually did it manually. So when we talk about one of the evolutions of photography is to see how now it is so much easier for more people who are even less creative and less skilled to get online and just learn how to do something as regards photographs. You might focus on specific areas. Back in the day, we didn't have things like Photoshop. So however you took your picture, that was it. If you were smiling that day, great. If you were in a good mood, whatever, if the color you were wearing was wrong, whatever you had, that was it. But now when I think about the evolution of photography, I think, oh my goodness, we didn't have a lot of photographers out there, and even the photographers we had, we didn't do much with our photographs. As I said, I used to take pictures all the time, so I remember always going to the shop and buying film. And when you're buying your film, the main film brand was Kodak, because that's back in the day where it all started, until some other brands came up like Fuji and the rest. And you go in and you get your 100 speed, or your 400 speed, or your 200 speed. I didn't quite understand what all that meant. Back then, all I knew was the 400 speed was most expensive, and the 200 was middle of the range, and the 100 was less expensive. And all I knew as a novice back then was you go to the shop, and you know that if you buy the 100 speed, you can take pictures in the sun. That's all that was the most information we had about it. You can take pictures in the sun. Now, if you buy the 400 speed, you're going to invest in this. It means that you're going to be at a party somewhere. It's going to be at night. So you had to take. So we had basic information, and you would always go to the shop knowing that you'd pay more for the higher speed and less for the lower speed. So I tried as much as possible to take my pictures in the day, because I was taking pictures left, I told you, back, all the time. And then you wind the film. Of course, you cannot release the film unless it's you're in a dark room or something like that. But the cameras were wound the film on their own. You didn't have to wind their film. Back in the day, am I confusing myself? The cameras that we had, or the cameras that I used, the film would roll back into the cartridge, yes? And so that cartridge would be the dark room until you take them to be developed. Again, we're talking about Advent, so anyone who's hearing me was like, what? So now you just take your picture and you're done. But there, you have to take your picture, and then it winds itself back into the film cartridge, and you take it to the Photoshop where they develop it. Then they have to release that film from the cartridge when they're in a dark room. If you release that film when you're in the light, then it's overexposed and it's ruined. So many of us made some costly mistakes back in the day, but we since learned. So that was one of the evolutions, where now you don't need to do that. Now you just take your picture digitally and it's instant. So the idea of waiting for a picture is unheard of now. Then you had to wait. You accepted that you would wait a week, 2 weeks sometimes, depending on the backlog, for your photographs. And whatever came out, came out. You didn't have the chance to go back and take that picture again. So if you had limited information and knowledge about film and photography, light, dark, shade, bahati mbaya, you just now have your overexposed picture or your picture that's in the dark, and you deal with it. So those are some of the things when we talk about evolution of photography, and photographers now who are learning photography now, it is very hard for them to appreciate how much more challenging it was then. But we didn't see it as a challenge. Why? Because that was what we had. We didn't have anything better. So we dealt with it. So the idea of instant pictures is an evolution. The idea of being able to correct what you've taken wrong, if you just look at it and say, oh, I don't like that, let me retake it, is also an evolution in photography. The idea of having some working knowledge of, okay, I've taken the picture, but that light's not good, that background's not good, that's also an evolution. We didn't have the novelty of that back in the day. Hi there, my name is Regina-Re, and this is the Versatile Creative Hub.
Versatile School of Photography, transforming lives through photography.